Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another podcast episode. I'm your host, Dave, and today I'm joined with Officer Mike again. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Dave. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I believe this is like week 7 of my quarantine from work. Yeah, I just want to go outside and do stuff, but, you know, I don't want to die.
I hear you.
Now, speaking of catching the COVID, which I really don't want to talk too much about, I know people want to escape reality, and we're here to entertain them, but I know you wanted to mention something about COVID in one of our show's major focal points.
Yeah, I'd say major. Not quite major world, but definitely something major. So we got OJ Watch here.
Hello, Twitter world. This is me, yours truly.
He's out there drinking some of that Clorox bleach to try and make sure he can cleanse himself from all the evil things that he's done.
Goodbye, Twitter world.
Don't hack my account, please.
Yeah. You know, I saw that. I think President Trump made a comment about injecting disinfectants into people or something like that. And was he joking or serious? Who the hell knows? I'm not getting into politics. But then O.J. Simpson, like Mike said, he goes on his TikTok and he starts acting like he's going to be drinking bleach, Raid, and Lysol. And he's like spraying it like perfume and like putting it into his face with his hand, like wafting it. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever, you know, because it's OJ. Like this guy.
Just imagine if anybody had done that because they seen him do it. You know?
You know, OJ's the best thing that ever happened to our podcast. He is the gift that keeps on giving all year round. Now, leaving that, our major topic today is going to be time travel. What's a word I'm thinking of, Mike? I was going to say distillation, but that's when you make booze. Time dilation, there we go.
Dilation, that's the one.
Distillation. I don't even think I said that right. But regardless, today is all about time. And time is a very interesting aspect. Many people consider it pseudoscience, but today, after our podcast, we might change your mind because there has been major studies, different theories, and a lot of it has been proven. Some is considered a hoax, but hopefully we're enlightening some of you with some of this stuff. So first of all, obviously none of us have time traveled. I don't know about Mike there. Mike, have you ever went back in time?
Not that I know of. I don't walk through different doorways and teleport and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, we got to get a witch here so she could explain all that stuff. But anywho, that's for another show.
Yeah.
But I myself have never traveled through time either. But it's always in our pop culture. Some of my favorite movies out there deal with time travel. You have The Terminator, Back to the Future, The Time Machine, Doctor Who, and, you know, when I was brainstorming with Mike, I would say about a week ago, since Mike has a schedule different than mine, he sent me this message in the middle of the night, and it goes, "Oh, if you're all into time travel, check this out." And it was a trailer to this movie. It's called Assassin 33 AD. And I watched it, and I was like half asleep. And this comes on, and it's like, picture Terminator, but instead of machines, I guess it's Islamic extremist, and they go back in time to kill Jesus. And, you know, I'm sitting there, my eyes are still like halfway open, and I'm watching this. I think I'm in a dream. You see like this black guy with jerry curls, and he's like picking up Jesus' cross and helping him because they're stoning him. I don't know why I found it so funny, but I laughed so hard. It was like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I just turned it off, went back to bed. And then I woke up and I'm like, wow, what a funny dream. And I saw it was a real movie.
Yeah, it was real. I think it's out.
Oh my God. Just out of curiosity's sake, I think I'm going to watch it and then talk about it on here one day. Because it's so, like, you make a movie like that, you know you're going to aggravate some sort of special interest group. But anyway, time travel, it's really big. And recently there was a film that came out called Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey, and I thought that was the most amazing film dealing with space and time travel I've ever seen. It's basically on the new theories that have come out that gravity and time are very linked together, almost the same exact thing. and you can't have one without the other. And after today's subjects that we're going to talk about, you'll see what I mean by that. Basically, in the film, Matthew McConaughey goes through a wormhole, which leads to I would say a solar system, which at the center is a black hole. And each planet has a different gravitational field. So if he lands on one, and the gravity is higher than Earth, basically time goes slower for him on the planet than it would outside of the gravitational pull of the planet, like in space. And it's different stuff like that, and to some it may be very confusing. I know me trying to take notes on here and gather information, I was getting a little confused. But it's really interesting. And Mike, have you seen that film at all?
No, I don't think I did, actually.
I fully recommend it. It's a little long, but it's really cool. Well, geez, I'm not going to get into it. We don't have enough time. But I fully recommend it. It's really out there, but it's the fringe of what scientists out there think about time. So we're going to start with Einstein. Now, everybody should know him. He came up with the E=mc² and all that stuff. Very important to our history. But he came up with some other theories. And one that specifically goes with our topic today is Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity. Now, this idea isn't really for people on the planet, more so people in space, and it deals with objects that can move faster or as fast as time. Basically, I could take a whole 40 minutes to explain this, but in short, special relativity says that when your speed relative to other objects is close to the speed of light, time seems to go slower for you, more than the people you left behind. And you'll never notice this time change until you go back to where you started from. So for example, if me and Mike were on the Earth, I got into a spaceship and I went light speed. I went to the sun and came back. Technically, to me it might be only minutes or days, but for Mike it could be months. And that sounds insane, but according to the research, many scientists have confirmed this. And you might be saying to yourself at home, "Yo, this is bull crap." But hear me out, because this Einstein theory and special relativity moves on more, and what this dives into is something called gravitational time dilation. And this is very similar to what I mentioned with Interstellar. Gravitational time dilation is a phenomenon where time runs slower when in a higher gravitational potential. Now, for normal people, that means the closer you are to an object with bigger or heavier gravity, however you want to describe it, time will go slower for you than if you're in the atmosphere, on a mountain, or in space. A crazy idea is, some people got together and they said, well, how can we prove or disprove this? And this leads to one of the coolest things I've discovered, which is the LE-KEATING experiment. Mike, have you ever heard of this bad boy?
Not exactly. I'm not 100% familiar with it.
Oh, well, this is nuts. This is going to blow you away, because this experiment was published in 1972, which means everybody on the planet, scientists, we know this is fact by now. And I have not heard any other experiments dealing with time, really, except some guys who've been working with different elevations with atomic clocks. But this one's pretty cool, because you have, I believe their names are Joseph Heifel and Richard Keating. And I might be wrong with that, but I think I'm pretty right. Now, they took 4 atomic clocks. They put some in airliners or jets, and they put some at an airport. Now, the one that is at the airport is our time. It's like you looking at your watch, and it's good to go. Now, they took a plane, and they went eastward with it. They went around the planet. Then they took the plane, and they went westward with it. And, you know, going west all the way around, and they land at the airport. They take all the atomic clocks after they do this test, and they lay them all out, and they gather the data. Now, it turns out that when the plane went east, it went slightly into the past. And we're talking, you know, fractions of nanoseconds here. But if the plane went into the west, it went slightly into the future. And this data has been taken, it was published, and it's out there. And it blows my mind. And this proves that time travel is possible, but in the amount of time we're talking here, it would take tons and tons of rotations over tons of time to get anywhere. And I think, like, it blows my mind. I don't even know what else to say about that.
Right.
Oh, man, and I sit there and I think, watching the original Superman with Christopher Reeves, at the end of that movie, well, I don't want to blow it for anybody, but something happens, and he has to go around the planet, speed and bullet, and he keeps spinning around the planet, and he actually reverses time and goes back in time.
Right.
And technically, that could happen.
There's some truth to it, yeah.
Yeah, if you could go fast enough, you can go into the past or the future. And, oh my God. It's neat. It really is. And I did have 2 questions, going ancient aliens on everybody out there. And my questions today are basically, if this is indeed true, if one went to Jupiter, or say the sun, went around a planet a couple times, what would the time change be for you guys? It should be astronomical, because the gravity for those 2 objects are way bigger than Earth. And my second question would be, do the computers on the International Space Station get affected by this phenomenon? And if so, by now, how far could they be in the future? And that one really blows my mind. I think the ISS has been up there over 10 years now. Their computer has been running non-stop. And if you go by some of the calculations I've seen, it could be a couple days in the future. We're talking 3 or 4. Their computer, not their people.
Yeah.
For some reason, astronauts don't really get affected as much. Or they do. Who knows? There's not really any data taken on this. Not by normal people. Maybe at NASA or the government. But it's insane. That means the computer that's on that space station, if it indeed goes into the future, knows what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, it already has data from 3 days in our future.
Right.
Which is odd. Like, I don't know. My mind's hurting, Mike.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Oh, man.
It's definitely got me thinking.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I know some people out there might be going, Dave, Officer Mike, this is a bunch of crap. It's true. I'm going to put links in the description below. You guys can read all this data. These guys did this experiment. Einstein brought up the experiment, and then basically because of his thoughts and theories, it led to where we are today. And today, I'm sure there's scientists out there that are messing with this. I know there's a show called In Search Of, and on that show, they looked into this, and the guy put an atomic clock, ground level, and then he put one on top of a mountain. And what they saw was the one at ground level was slower than the one that was on top of the mountain. Again, by fractions of nanoseconds, but still, that's insane.
Yeah, just to think that people that are of higher elevation even are traveling through time at a different rate than we are.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, what if you lived underwater at the closest you could get to our planetary core, or planet core, whatever you want to call it? Time would go super slow for you.
Right.
Compared to people that are on top of that mountain. So it's weird. Well, Mike, I think it's time we move on. You know how I always used to say, maybe we should have like a news segment, like how Howard Stern has Robin?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I got a news girl.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. So let me introduce Dstep.
Hi guys, this is Dstep. A lot has been happening in the world, so let's get some strange stories out there. First up, no White Claws for the ivory tusk. Turns out, scientists think they have found a gene that is responsible for making the process of breaking down alcohol problematic, and how some animals have it. The gene is called ADH7, and it makes it hard for the body to break down ethanol. These genes are located in many animals, but to name just 2, we have the guinea pig and the elephant. So watch out. If an elephant gets in your booze closet, it might get shrunk. Yeah, I know, corny. Me so horny.
I thought it was funny.
Next up, the truth is now out there. the United States government, or should I say the Pentagon, has come out and said UFOs are real. A viral set of videos was leaked, and the State Department declared them as unexplained aerial phenomena, aka UFOs. Watch the skies and keep your buns tight. And the final story for today, killer bees. Well, not really. Get your bug spray ready, boys, because the giant Asian hornet has moved on to the west. These murder hornets are the latest deadly organism to come out of the east. These Asian hornets have a body length of about 2 inches, a wingspan of 3 inches, and it is also known to cause anaphylactic shock or cardiac arrest from its sting. So the question is, when the quarantine's over, do you really want to go outside? And that does it for me, folks. This is the news for the week. I'm Dstep, signing off.
Thank you very much, Dstep. That was awesome.
You got it.
So that does it for the news. How was that, Mike?
That was great, but I gotta ask, Dave, the audio sounded a little bit sketchy on my end. Where did you find this girl?
You know, that is a long story, and I think we could have a whole other show about that. But basically, I found her on the interweb, and she's one of those doomsday preppers that builds like a giant underground fortress. So I guess she's ready for World War III or something, but yeah, she radioed in from her underground bunker.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense then.
Those murder hornets, though, that kind of freaked me out.
I think it's enough to put anybody into a bunker.
Yeah, do I really want to go out? That is a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, but she also talked about UFOs, and I think that's really interesting because our next topic is the GLOCKE, also known as the Nazi bell. And before everybody jumps on me about, oh, Nazis, listen, were they bad? Yeah, they did a lot of bad stuff in World War II, but for our show's purpose, talking about their engineering and technology, they're second to none. They had some crazy stuff. And a lot of the weapons they were making towards the end of World War II were actually called Wunderwaffe, which is wonder weapons. And of course, for all you Nazi zombie players out there, Wunderwaffe that you would know is the laser gun. Or, Mike, what is that actually called again? I haven't played zombies in so long.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too. I don't remember what it was called.
I think it's just a laser, whatever. But anywho, towards the end of the war, like I was saying, the Germans were basically desperate. They were looking for different ways to use their technology to win. So you had different weapons, such as a unit that looks similar to a flamethrower. And what this would do is make a tornado, basically a wind tunnel, and use static electricity with the particles that you're spinning to cause a flame to shoot out. Like, really crazy stuff, and you can look up all this stuff, and that's just a fraction. They were also dealing with different types of jet engines, aerial units. They even had plans to go into space. Just madness, you know, a lot of hidden history as well. But what I'm getting to is, to go with our time travel theme, if you will, during the end of World War II, there was one story that some people consider a hoax. I, for one, don't know. I think that it could possibly be true, but let me tell the tale and we'll see what you guys think. So towards the end of World War II, the Nazis were working on their GLOCKE, which is a Nazi bell, which is a flying machine. It's not that big. I would say maybe the size of a normal car, maybe the height of a school bus, something like that. And it looks like a bell, like the Liberty Bell. And the bottom, one end turned one way and the top turned another. And this rotation with a mixture of mysterious fuels, something like dark matter and stuff like that, would power this device and it would fly. And it would make a sort of like a bluish hue around it. I don't know if it's supposed to be radiation or something like that. Like I said, many people say it's a hoax. But here's the thing. Once the Allies were closing in on the area, the Nazi bell disappeared from history after apparently it took off. Now, the Allies stormed the facility. There was no evidence of this. Some people say there was paperwork. You have hearsay and other stuff like that. And it's like a spooky piece of history. Now, you might be asking yourself, Dave, what the hell does this have to do with time travel? Well, check this out. The Nazi bell disappears, right? Well, guess what? Jump ahead till 1965. Several people from Pennsylvania all the way up to Canada are relaxing. It's nighttime and they see what looks to be a shooting star or a fallen object crash land. And this bad boy crash lands in Kecksburg, PA, Pennsylvania. And it was actually called the Kecksburg UFO Incident. Now, this guy crashed into the ground. Everybody was like, oh, what's that? And just like War of the Worlds in the old 1950s film, you know, some people tried to get close to it and this and that. And they say that there was a hue coming from it. Shades of white, blue, purple, different things like that, depending on what story you read. And just when people were going to get close enough to it, the U.S. Army comes in, they move everybody out, and once the item cools down, they put it on a truck and take it to their local base, and it's never seen again. Now, there's a lot of hearsay that some scientists from Operation Paperclip and some other American scientists said that they saw similar things to that and that they put it in back of a wall with bricks. Like, it's really shady stuff. Did you ever hear anything about this, Mike?
No, this is the first time hearing of it. But I find it interesting, though, that you're saying that a couple scientists from Operation Paperclip had something to say about it, considering, you know, it's likely that maybe one of them would have been the ones that were working on it over in Nazi Germany.
Yeah, it could have been. And the thing is, you could go on, I know Wikipedia is not a good source, but you could check out Wikipedia. You could go to different websites. There's a couple books about it. And each one of these sources has something else to say about this. And some say that, oh, it was purely an American setup, that we took it, we tested it, and the technology we grabbed from this is what led to different ships we have today and America's own, you know, UFOs or something like that. And other people said that once it crash landed, yeah, some German scientist, you know, came in and looked at it and this and that. And it's kind of weird because anybody who's a history buff knows about Operation Paperclip. For those who don't, that is when, basically after World War II and during it, if you were a Nazi scientist or a German scientist, you could come to America and we'll protect you, but now you're working for us. And it's basically, I believe, how we came up with the Apollo rocket. The gentleman who came up with the V2, I think that it was, the missile to reach England, it was built on the same thing with a multi-stage rocket. So it's crazy. A lot of stuff that, you know, we take for granted and stuff came from them. And that's kind of interesting and scary that a device made to destroy transformed years later into an exploration vessel to the moon. And, you know, don't bring up if we were there or not, because there's a lot of people that say we weren't, Mike. Shh. But anywho, jumping back to this Kecksburg incident, it's really interesting to me because NASA released a statement in 2005 about this, Mike. Okay?
All right.
Now, they said the experts had examined the fragments from the area and determined they were from a satellite from the Soviets. Okay, the time sort of matches up, 1965, Cold War. I could believe that. However, then NASA says, but the records and their findings were lost in the 1990s. You're telling me you had data that proved something that fell to the Earth wasn't from another planet or from Germany, and it was a Soviet satellite, but yet that just disappeared. I don't know, it's kind of weird. You would think something like that, it would be scanned and stored so that way there's evidence down the road. I know a lot of people were talking about how the original moon landing videos were lost as well, like the photographs and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's always weird to me that things go missing. I always find that to be very suspicious. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, the whole thing just sounds a little suspect to me. Like you said, where it's just convenient that certain things go missing at certain times and everything, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of spooky in a way. But for those who are interested and you would like to see this spot where the supposed UFO crashed into Pennsylvania, you can go to the Kecksburg UFO Memorial. And, you know, you might miss it because it's small as hell, but you drive down the road, look on the right or left, depending on where you're going, and you'll see this item that looks like a beehive. It's curved up, and it's bigger at the bottom, like a bell. And the thing is, if the Nazi bell was so secretive and it was a Wunderwaffe, how the hell did a satellite fall and that's the shape they say it looks like? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's where a lot of this time travel talk came from. And I think it could very well be possible. Again, we don't really know what the Nazi bell was all about. I'm telling you, we could have a whole episode on this Nazi bell, and if people are interested, I'll be more than happy to do a lot of research on this, because the bell itself is not necessarily a weapon, but the more you look into it, it was all about the occult. There was different things that powered it that are almost like science fiction. Like, it's weird stuff, and it's deep. And it could have bigger meanings, or it could be like some scientists say today, a hoax. And, you know, in the end, it's up to us to make a decision on that. For me personally, I don't know. Anything's possible. I find it odd that a ship that's shaped like a bell disappears, but then you have a ship that crash lands in PA, looks just like it with the same configuration for the most part, to the point where they make a statue for it in their town, and it matches. I don't know. It's weird.
Right.
But that's basically all I have to say about that. You know, the whole thing where Dstep was talking about those UFOs. You know, I had to bring it up.
Yeah, definitely an interesting point in time.
Yeah, and everything we know about time travel that we just talked about, and that's just a fraction of stuff that's out there. You know, we could go on and on for hours about the Mandela effect and what could cause that, and different experiments that went on. But it's just a very interesting idea that one can travel into the past or future, and it really makes your mind open up, and it makes you think, well, if you could go into the future and you know what's going to happen, can you change the present to change the future? I know it sounds confusing, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Or go back in time and change little mistakes. You know, I don't know. There's also theories out there that you can't change anything, that time fixes itself and stuff like that. But I don't know. I like to think that in Back to the Future, the doctor, he gets a blackboard and he draws a line and he says, that's our timeline. And then he goes, when Biff changed the timeline, it branched off like a fork in the road. I personally think that's what time's like. And if you go back and change it correct, the line will go back to a straight line. And if you change something too big, I don't know, maybe time distorts or something like that, but we'll never know.
No, definitely not, I'd say.
Yeah, time travel could be crazy. The fun thing is, like, if I had a time machine right now, and I went back in time, yeah, I would like to be an observer, just to see how people are acting. But, you know, a large part of my brain is going to be like, listen, you know what's going to happen. Do something, and that way when you go back to the future, there'll be, like, something there waiting for you. You know, like you take gold or something and hide it, and then only you'll know about it. I don't know, it's weird.
Green bar deli done.
What the hell was that?
What was what?
Well, what are you going to do?
All right.
Well, Mike, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about today?
No, I think we covered a lot here.
Yeah.
Between the news segment and all this history.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle. You know, when you and me come up with ideas and stuff, I try to make it so it's short enough to fit into like a 30-minute segment. But the more I look into things, like we could have talked about easily one of these topics we had today for an hour. Easy.
Right.
With all the details and stuff. But, you know, I don't think anybody wants to listen at the moment for an hour. So we'll see how you guys react that are listening. And hopefully you enjoyed this and it makes you want to go out and research on this your own. And if you find something out and you want to let me and Officer Mike know, let us know in the comments, because that's what this show is about at the moment. You know, making you forget about what's going on in the real world and having you do some research on your own and explore. You know, because there is a lot out there, especially with this pseudoscience stuff. You know, this is just one tiny part of a fraction of the whole world of stuff out there, including, you know, spooky animals like Bigfoot and robots and every other damn thing, and crystals and witchcraft. You know, the list goes on. Mike, I think we need to get a witch on here.
Yeah. A witch? And then we need to find that psychic for the dog.
Yeah, the dog psychic. I almost forgot about her. I think that would be...
Those are goals.
I think that should be. I think if we do a show that deals with this crazy stuff all the time, I think sooner or later we definitely should have or find a way to get some sort of guest on here to, you know, not judge them or anything like that, but hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
And I think that would be, A, really interesting, and 2, for the people at home that are listening, entertaining as hell, and for some of you out there, you know, mind-opening. Sometimes people say things that change the listener's life, you know. They could be into something that you think is bullcrap, and then all of a sudden something sparks in your brain, and now that's your hobby. I know, it sounds weird, but it happens out there. It's like watching a TV show and you see an item, and then you get all into that item, and now all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm a collector of blank. You know, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So that's about everything I had to say today. I think today's show was really good. I know there was a lot of information to digest, but it's all real. I'll leave the links below. You guys can look it up and come up with your own opinions on the matter. And I just want to take a moment and thank Dstep for contacting us through her underground bunker with her pretty cool news. Got to watch out for those Asian hornets, Mike.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, boy. And of course, Mike, thank you very much. It wouldn't be our podcast without a visit from Officer Mike.
It's always a pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Right on. Well, everybody, till next time, look to the skies, and I'll see you next time.